just 10 days before this prelims, that is on 28th was the prelims, so somewhere around 18th, we had one prediction class by one Mr. Deepak, who's our faculty. Now, only from these prediction classes, almost 46 questions have come. Just you see that prediction class video clips, you just see, then you yourself will understand. Those students, of course it was open only for our academy students, those students who have attended, now those 46 topics alone, if they have seen it, they would have definitely got more than 90 marks, which will be much above the cutoff expected this year. And this is not from whole last 1 year class. 1 year class we have taught everything. But only from that prediction class alone, almost 46 questions. So just no longer have this view that UPSC means it is not unpredictable. Rather, it is definitely predictable, provided you know the tricks of the trade.
The basis for me doing this exercise is if someone who is just starting today, okay, if you are only paying attention to the highlight areas that I have mentioned in the first PubAd class pertaining to prelims, the one we did previously, this one, and I don't know how many more sessions we'll take to complete, is that you should be actually able to clear prelims. It's actually not an exaggeration. I think it's a fair estimate. Okay, just doing this, just only paying attention to the focal areas. There's a lot more. Don't think it's only what we have done so far. There's still a lot more. My assumption is that if you just do this very well, I'm pointing you to certain areas wherever I'm asking you to read up a little extra that you need to do, right? You do it, you should have a very, very fair chance of at least reaching 80. See, I'm openly giving a statement, okay? After prelims, see, I clear, everything is recorded, it's on video, okay? This class, the previous class. From only the trap areas that I've given, I'm hyper confident that probably 60 to 70% of the questions will come only from these trap areas in the context of polity, subtracting current affairs. And even current affairs polity still goes back to the subject, but open challenge kind of a thing. 60% from only the trap areas that I've indicated, and it's very little that I've done. It's not I've told everything is important, very, very picky, but questions, in my opinion, should come from this. Last 2-3 years, you've been hearing of bond yield going up, bond yield going down, bond price going up, bond price going down, interest rate hikes, Fed in the news. So what you basically need to understand is the relationship between three variables: bond yield, bond price, interest rate. Okay? Even if you don't understand this concept, no problem. Just understand how one variable is related to another variable. Bond yield and bond price. If one goes up, what will happen to the other? It is inverse relationship, right? Bond yield goes up, bond price will go down. Then interest rate and bond price. Interest rate and bond price. Same inverse relationship between what? Bond price and interest rate. See, it's the policy of UPSC to not really poke into sensitive aspects pertaining to reservation. Whether it is in the mains, whether it is an interview. In fact, one former UPSC member mentioned very clearly that in the UPSC interview, there is this mandate. You can ask any question, no limit, any question except matters pertaining to one's class. This is like a mandate, this is like a philosophical approach of UPSC. Right? But if there is something like this, then what do you look into? You go into the constitutional aspects. You look at, your Article 15, you look at Article 16. What change in Article 15? What change in Article 16? There are two things which are very, very important. Again, repetitively, the UPSC has asked questions in the context of prelims, which is the difference between 5th schedule and 6th schedule, right? In all its dimensions, the role of the governor here, the states in each of these lists, have some kind of an acronym to remember, do whatever it takes. I think this year it's very important to know which subjects are in which list. Okay, if you want, print it out, do whatever, at least the more crucial ones. So Law Commission of India, statutory body, executive body, constitutional body. First, whenever you start a question, whenever you start a topic, always look at why it is important, why it is there, why do we have the fundamental rights. People usually ignore the first 3-4 paragraphs. the Y aspect. If you are not getting enough clarity on the Y aspect here, refer to the Indian Constitution at Work, the NCR. So do we have due process of law, or do we have only procedure established by law? Right. So when you look at arbitrary, again, going against arbitrary action of the state versus arbitrary action of the government, you understand the difference? Or rather, to put it more specifically, arbitrary action of the executive versus arbitrary action of the legislative. So which applies to what? Due process applies to executive or legislature? Due process of law applies to both executive action and legislative action, right? So this is basically the difference between your procedure established by law and your due process of law. During centralization of the government in India, what is like the biggest landmark legislation? Whether it is Regulating Act, Councils Act, Charter Act, it is your Charter Act of 1833, biggest big bang reform in terms of centralization. That is when from Bengal it becomes Government of India, Government of Bengal to Government of India, first time. And it is only under the Charter Act that the East India Company basically becomes an administrative body from being just a commercial body. And for one more reason, this 1833 is very crucial. Everything before 1833 was called a regulation. Everything after 1833 was called an act. Okay, that's again why 1833 is very, very crucial. See, I'll give you a direct hit list for art and culture, thoughts around that area. Okay. First, let me give you the facts. Okay. Then let me tell you why it is important. This is on the basis of data the last 12 years. Okay. Ellora, okay, has appeared. No, first let me tell you what's there. Okay. Ellora 3 times. Fatehpur 3 times. Chola 5 times. Only in the last 12 years. 5 times. Okay. Hampi 5 times. Mahabalipuram 2 times. Khajuraho 4 times. Sun Temple 3 times. Questions pertaining to Stupa 3 times. Right. Now, the logic is that, so I tried to do some kind of data plotting. Okay. Now I went to the UNESCO sites in India, UNESCO World Heritage sites in India. Then I tried looking at the previous year question papers, last 12 years, 13 years, to find out whether the questions are primarily coming from sites that are in this list. And to my surprise, I found that whatever I was searching for here, it appeared probably 2 times, 3 times, and like in this case 5 times. So whatever is there mentioned in that list, please be very, very familiar with it. Okay. Chola, I think you should be very familiar with, in the context of the movie, and see that's how question setters also think, right? I mean, everyone gets to see this movie. They'll think, oh, obviously Chola is, it's a real thing, right? Whether it is temple architecture to, there could be a question, who was the first to conquer Sri Lanka? This is actually a previous year question. There are so many, Chola related questions on the past. So what you need to do is look at the previous year questions pertaining to Cholas, and then around the same theme collect information. That Chola, I think you should be very familiar with, in the context of the movie, and see that's how question setters also think, right? I mean, everyone gets to see this movie. They'll think, oh, obviously Chola is, it's a real thing, right? Whether it is temple architecture to, there could be a question, who was the first to conquer Sri Lanka? This is actually a previous year question. There are so many, Chola related questions on the past. So what you need to do is look at the previous year questions pertaining to Cholas, and then around the same theme collect information. That's it. Nothing more. Then my prediction is Hampi. Hampi, everything surrounding Hampi, I think very, very important. What river do you have around that place? Hampi. Okay. See, this is a very, very short hit list. Okay, I'm just giving you some 4 or 5, and I'm telling you there could be a question from that. But I have a strong conviction there will be a question from one of these 5. Okay. This Sittana Vasal has been in the news for quite some time. So these cave paintings, what do they depict? Overall, bigger picture. Don't go into the details. Basically has a lot of the Jaina themes. Gandhara, Mathura, Amravati. These three are relatively important because even if you look at mains questions from art and culture over the previous years, questions have often come from this Gandhara. Gandhara is a very, very favorite topic for UPSC. So, Hampi is very important. Everything related to Hampi. And Hampi, which river is most nearby? Tungabhadra. Historical significance of Poompuhar, or referred to as Puhar, or what is also referred to as Kaveripatnam. Again, significant because of the movie context. And there is also geographical significance. It is reported to have been destroyed by tsunamis and waves over the years. So there is a tsunami connection also to it. Then again, in the history class, I had mentioned that this Poompuhar is very important to it. Again, Kakatiya I have seen in previous year questions quite often. Kakatiya is important. But pertaining to all the other things, in Telangana, that Ramappa, those are some areas you need to be familiar with. Generally, Archaeological Survey of India has been in the news. Yeah. Historically, who contributed to the setting up of the ASI? Who are these Britishers? In the context of some of the findings, whether it is Kidadi or Adichanallur, please be very familiar with. You look at the previous year questions that have come from such topics, collect similar information from whatever. It's not overt news items, but you need to do little bit of extra reading. Since we've had a lot of celebration over the Indian flag last couple of years, basically the designer of the Indian flag, it is attributable to Pingali Venkaya. Now what you need to see is what kind of current affairs relevance this carries. You had this Har Ghar Ka Tiranga, the Independence Day was so widely, festively celebrated. So what implication is there in the context of fundamental duties, right? Is the kind of connection that you need to be making. So you pay attention there. Countries neighboring Ukraine, they've asked, this year, I think 2022 they asked, but there could be a repeat. Ukraine, neighboring countries. So try to come up with some kind of an acronym or something. Moldova, Romania, Poland. So remember it as MRP. Okay, Moldova, Romania, and Poland. Then there is Slovakia, Russia, and Hungary. Slovakia, Russia, and Hungary. Remember it as SRH, Sunrisers. Yes. This hydrogen is a very important topic. Green hydrogen, brown hydrogen, hydrogen fuel cell, how it operates. So basically, what energy into what energy? Hydrogen car. Chemical energy into mechanical energy. Okay. Do hydrogen cars use electric motors? EVs, electric motors, no? But hydrogen cars, do they use electric motors? Yes, they also use electric motors. Gently, one point from the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia and Eritrea, are they neighbors? That Horn of Africa, just get yourself very familiar with. Probably just scribble it on your notebook or whatever, what is there, what is not there. That entire region, see it multiple times. An Excel sheet that carries the analysis of question papers from 2011 up to the most recent prelims paper. So that has a breakup, that has a topic-wise breakup in terms of number of questions. For instance, Parliament chapter, how many questions so far? On the basis of averages also. That is, you take, let's say, Parliament every year, how many questions? So across 12 years, what is the average? So that you have an indication of what you're going to get, right? In the case of assent of the President, again, you need to be very clear across topics. When it comes to money bill, how it is. In the case of constitutional amendment bill, how it is, right? And in the case of a private member bill, how is it? And in the case of an ordinary bill, what is the situation? So again, this is something that you need to be very clear about. See, some of these things we've already done in terms of what belongs to what list, union list, state list, concurrent list. So when I send you that video link, please identify that part of the video where we have just discussed for which of these subjects it's important for you to know what falls in which list. Okay. Finance Commission, you need to be very clear about how the terms of reference have changed. I hope it's a part of your material somewhere. It's a part of your pulse also, I think. The terms of reference of the Finance Commission, it's an extremely crucial topic. In terms of census, which census we are using? What is this concept of income distance? So the components that you see, the top terms of reference is something you need to be very clear about and how it's changed over the years. Because previous year questions have directly tested those aspects. And also looking at how much devolution has increased, whether it's reduced, so on and so forth. You need to be very clear. I told you, Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission, 14th Finance Commission, differences. Yesterday while doing Pulse, we discussed what has changed, what has. Basically these three things: forest and ecology, income distance, demographic performance, tax effort. These comparisons. Modifications brought under 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Are you familiar what changes have been brought? Why it is very crucial? Why it is very relevant? Under whose government was this 44th Constitutional Amendment Act brought? Exactly. So you understand the political significance of it. So please understand, more than 42. 42 was brought under whom? 44 is obviously more important, right? So keep it. 42 is also very significant because of the insertion into the preamble and all of that. But 44 is also equally crucial, right? So remember the provisions of Article 40, Constitutional Amendment Act 44. So this is also a previous year question. The value of a vote, okay, value of an MP's vote, is it different from an MLA's vote? Between different MLAs across different states, can the value of a vote change? Can they be different? Yeah, be very clear about it. Set of points you need to know for the office of the president is when the president gets to have discretionary powers. The most important, discretionary powers of the president. See, and any term, okay, if they are asking, is it defined in the Constitution? Is it well defined in the Constitution? Poorly defined in the Constitution? For any of these terms, rule it out, right? Because it's a very subjective term. Well defined is a subjective term. I might think it's well defined, you might think it's not well defined, right? There cannot be a consensus on it. It becomes subjective then, right? It does not become objective. So such options, any question, office of profit, whatever it may be, hate speech, is it defined anywhere? Any of these things, just mention that it is. Just rule it out. If they think it's well defined or defined, rule it out. So what qualifies as a money bill is a very, very important topic, because you remember the whole Aadhaar direct benefit transfer related provisions. Under money bill, was it passed, was it not passed? So please understand the qualification criteria. Arun Jaitley's time. So please be very clear. Then ordinary bill versus money bill chart. Again, this comparison extremely important. So can you have a joint sitting for a constitutional amendment bill? Can you have a joint sitting for a money bill? Can you have a joint sitting for an ordinary bill? Obviously yes. Okay. Then again, this fifth schedule, sixth schedule, what are the differences? Role of the governor, role of the president, all of that be very clear. And again, which states are included where there is this code, ATM money is one code, to remember some of these states. Okay, in terms of productivity of an ecosystem, which is the most productive ecosystem? Tropical? Tropical rainforest, yes, evergreen forest or tropical rainforest has the highest productivity in any ecosystem. Environment topic, let me tell you, data analysis of the last 12 years, the highest number of questions from environment has come from pollution and related topics, the highest. In all of environment, it is pollution. So mercury pollution, basically, a few years ago, in case of mercury pollution was something that was discussed a lot, particularly in the context of Kodaikanal, mercury pollution. So mercury pollution comes out of, okay, thermal power plants, do you have mercury? So these are all things that don't come to your mind, right? When you think of thermal power plant, you don't think of mercury, but mercury pollution is also a consequence of thermal power plants. So whether it is gold mining, PVC manufacture, cement production, in all of this, mercury is also a major pollutant. Cement, thermal, gold, PVC pollution. So the first thing that you should do when you're doing the topic pollution is to know what are the components of the air quality index. What is there, what is not there. Okay, lead, is it there, is it not there? So HFC you are familiar with. Does HFC have an impact on ozone? Yes? No. HFC does not have any impact on ozone. HFC, was it included under the Kyoto Protocol? Kyoto Protocol, you all know greenhouse gases. Not included. HFCs are covered under the Kyoto Protocol. Palmyra. This is also Syria. Palmyra, Doma, Aleppo, Syria. And again, please, geography of Ukraine, what is surrounding Ukraine, 100% must, compulsory. Last year it was anticipated, they also asked Ukraine. And for one more reason, this 1833 is very crucial, you know. Everything before 1833 was called a regulation. Everything after 1833 was called an act. Okay, that's again why 1833 is very, very crucial. Okay, P waves and S waves, okay, which can't pass through liquid? Yes. Good. I will give you a few sectors, you tell me whether it is in or out, okay. Startup, priority sector lending. It is a part of priority sector lending, okay. Export credit, yes, that's also part of priority sector lending. Renewable energy, that is also part of priority sector. Of course, social infrastructure is also priority. So what does it PSL mean? Private? Priority sector lending, right? So again, priority sector lending, where it applies, where it doesn't apply, be clear. Sectors, 100% you need to know. So here is where it's very likely to have certain confusing options, bringing in something like electric vehicles and tempting you to pick, because you tend to think that EVs are, but just update with the latest, just cross check, whether any new information has been made to this list of priority sector. So you should not end up, because this is slightly older. Then protected areas are always very important. Have you heard of isotherms? Geography isotherms. What is it? On what basis isotherms are distributed? Temperature, okay. There's a very crucial term here. It's called continentality, right? Two things basically distribute your isotherms. One is continentality, other is your ocean currents. When you compare northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, where is the annual range of temperature higher? It is higher in the northern hemisphere, lower in the southern hemisphere. Reason is that you have more water in the southern hemisphere. Titanium, one of the strongest, lightest metals, and also silver. Both silver and titanium. So while this document loads, let me repeat again. Last 1 week, focus only on areas that you think everyone might know this. I should not be a situation where I don't know it. So any topic, whether you are doing polity, environment, whatever it may be, only go through those areas which you think will have this kind of importance. It's been discussed everywhere, has always been in news. I'm sure the people studying next to me will know this. Only such topics. Don't try to be this unique. Only I know, nobody else knows. It will give me special advantage. No, it will not give you. So if you just follow that approach, you can get things done much faster. So here again, if you want to do World Heritage Sites in India with location very easily, you have this map with you, right? All at one place. Just go through it. See, such things it's better to do on the exam is 28th, no? Do it on like 26th or something. Maps will only be there in your short term. To take map material from your short term into your long term memory is a very, very long process. You can't do it now. So you are doing the class today, probably just go through your notes alone today. Next, just on 26th alone, look at the map areas. The best time to do history and geography, that is maps, is on 26. The most rational thing to do. Then know that Vular Lake is the largest freshwater lake in India, and the source of the Vular Lake is river Jhelum. Give me an example of a van der Waal material. V-A-N-D-E-R, van der Waal, W-A-A-L, van der Waal. Graphene is an example of a van der Waal material. You may have all studied graphene, but know that graphene is a fan. Okay. The mic and the sound disturbance. This is okay. And see, any question pertaining to application of something, keep it as open-ended as possible. That is where you arrive at D as the option, as widely as you can apply it. Difference between green hydrogen and brown hydrogen. This hydrogen fuel cell, I'm pretty sure we can expect a question. And also fourth generation biofuel. Please also know there are 4 generations, right? First, second, third, fourth. What are the differences in these biofuels? Also, when you use a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, what is the end product? Water and heat, right? Overall, in terms of emission, it's only heat and water. It is much quieter. It has fewer moving body parts, lower emissions, higher efficiencies. Okay, the most simplistic difference between a jet engine and a rocket engine. The difference is that jet engine would utilize oxygen from outside, whereas a rocket engine will carry its own oxygen. This is a very, very crucial difference between the both. The obvious reason is that rocket goes into space where there is no external oxygen, so it needs to carry one on its own. Then also have a very broad understanding of where we find lithium reserves across the world, where you have the biggest deposits of lithium. In South America, there's something called the lithium triangle. Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, they I think have the largest reserves of lithium in the world. Next, again related to EV, what other questions would come? Just everything pertaining to EVs. It's an instrument that captures external costs of emission and ties them to the sources through a price. It's basically for use of that carbon for emission, like what is really the environmental cost? You're basically accounting for the externalities. So carbon tax is basically on the basis of carbon pricing. So when did carbon trading begin? Under which? Is it Paris or is it Kyoto? Carbon trading began under the Kyoto Protocol. Because we earlier discussed the Chilka Lake, please also know that the fishing cat. Then in the context of tribal communities, please know what are community forest rights and habitat rights. And generally this is very important. The Forest Rights Act is very important. PISA is also extremely important. Panchayati Raj Extension to Scheduled Areas Act. And what is the power of a Gram Sabha in such a place? Capital market instruments, you basically need to know some of these terms that have been in the news over and over. What is this FPO, right? Then what is the difference between shares and debentures? Then what are these convertible debentures? Because such questions have appeared in the past. There was a question on convertible debentures in the 2022 prelims paper. Then going into G6. G6 are a very, very important topic. So I told you all these tools and instruments pertaining to raising money, right, are things that you need to know about. G6, what are the different types of G6? What is the difference? Then treasury bills, again, rightly so, this point has been highlighted. The credit basically goes to the Consolidated Fund of India and not to the public account. So this is something that you need to know. Marginal standing facility, market stabilization scheme. Then what is the concept of monetization of debt? What does it mean? This phrase, monetization of debt, meaning to fulfill your debt obligations, printing currency is what is called monetization of debt. Easy to come up with a match question. WPI, this organization. CPI, this organization. only one pair is correct, two pairs are correct, three pairs are correct, or four pairs are correct. So whenever you're in doubt, what should you do? Go between B or C. If it goes wrong, blame me for it, but I can't compensate you. But you should take, that risk appetite should be there. If you're not taking risk, then not too much. It should not be irrational risk, but data is backing it. No? It's not extensive data. It's a small sample set. It's only 1 year. But still, I feel you can take the risk. See, the reason is that UPSC does things in a sense very scientifically. There is a bit of pseudoscience. There is also a bit of science. There is actually logic to all of this, which if I tell people won't believe. Devnath also always complains. They don't believe in such things, but okay.